Alrighty, so today you are going to be working on 8.5. This is one of my favorite parts of math. I love factoring because it's like a giant puzzle. And I'm going to show you guys some cool tricks that will help you do it. Hopefully you catch on quick, and using the method that I teach you today, you should be able to do all of this. So I'm going to start with some definitions, and I'm not necessarily going to wait for you to write them down. So if you need to pause the video to write them down, make sure you do so. So at the top, I wrote down what a quadratic equation looks like. Obviously, numbers go in for A, B, and C, but I'm going to use those letters today. So to factor is to split into parts that are multiplied together. Today, we are going to factor quadratics. To be specific, we're going to factor quadratic trinomials. Then, a coefficient is a number in front of a letter. So in our case here, we can say that we have coefficients of a and b. Doesn't matter that one is in front of x squared and that one is in front of x. They're both coefficients because they're numbers that go in front of letters. Now our leading coefficient is the number in front of the highest exponent. In this case, x squared is our highest exponent, so a is always going to be our leading coefficient for quadratic trinomials. And finally, a constant is a number with no variable or letter next to it. In this case, this is going to be called c. So for all of our quadratic trinomials, I will refer to the leading coefficient as a and the constant as c. Again, pause it if you need those definitions, but I'm going to move on to show you some examples. We have two methods today. One of the methods is right here. It looks confusing, it looks ugly, and I'm actually not going to teach it to you today. I'm going to teach you the one that works best. But if you know this method and you're comfortable with it, go ahead and use it. You do not have to use my method. The method we are going to use today is called the box or diamond method. It's kind of like the box method except for tilted on its side. So this example I'm not going to explain. This is kind of here if you ever need to go back and look at a complete example. So let's go straight to this explanation. The explanation of this diamond method is that you're on the top, you're going to put your C value, your number for C. On the bottom, you're going to put your B value. And on the sides, we're looking for numbers. We're looking for numbers that multiply to C and add to B. This may sound confusing, but I think you'll catch on. Let's go straight to example number 1. Remember, on top, I put my C value. In this case, I have A, B, and C. My A is an imaginary 1 there, and we don't really need to worry about A, but C is 12, so I'm going to put 12 on the top of my diamond, and then on the bottom I'm going to put my B value. B, in this case, is 7. So I have 12 and 7. Now I'm going to take my 12, and I'm going to figure out, okay, what combinations of numbers multiply to give me 12. Now, 12 is a rather small number. It may not be necessary to write all of them out, but it is important to do this for bigger numbers. So I'm going to show you an example with the smaller one. So I say 1 times 12 gives me 12, 2 times 6 gives me 12, and 3 times 4 gives me 12. Notice how I kind of just counted up until I stopped and I didn't have any more? That's the best way to do it. So I need to see which set of these multiples multiplies to give me 12. I got that, they all do. But they also need to add to give me 7, which is that bottom number. So if I look here, I say that, whoa, I have 3 and 4. When I add 3 plus 4, I get 7. So now I know that on the side, I need to put 3 and 4. Those are the two numbers I'm looking for, and I'm going to put them into my final answer, into the factored form. So I'm going to write factored form so I know what I'm looking for right here. And then I'm going to write down my answer. My answer always has 2 parentheses. Remember that factoring is splitting into part that 2 things are multiplied together. We are multiplying these 2 parentheses. It's always going to start with an X in it. And then I'm going to put my 4 in one of them. So I add 4. Then on the other side, I'm going to put my 3. And I add 3. So my final answer becomes x plus 3 times x plus 4. That is factored form. I would like you guys to give example number 2 a shot. I will show you what the answer is in just a minute. Okay, now I'm not going to wait forever. If you still need time to work, you can pause it. So on top I put the 20. Whoa, it helps if I'm not using a highlighter. Top I put the 20, bottom put the 9. I see, okay, what numbers multiply to give me 20 and add to give me 9? That would be 5 and 4, because 4 times 5 gives me 20. If I want to write it up here, I can. And 5 plus 4 gives me 9. So I can write my final factored form as x plus 5 times x plus 4. Now this may seem easy peasy, but we're going to get into a couple more difficult problems when we have negatives in them. So I am going to say, you guys can do example number 3. Shouldn't be a problem because it's exactly like the other one. And let's go straight to example number 4. Example number 4, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put 24 up top because that is our C value. And then we're going to put B down on the bottom, which is negative 11. Notice how I made sure that the 11 stayed with it. I mean, the negative sign stayed with the 11. If you don't do that, you're going to get it wrong. Okay, so make sure your negative signs are important. So now I'm going to list my numbers that multiply to give me 24. I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6, 5, nothing, so I'm going to get rid of it. 6, oh, that's 4. I already have it written down, so I'm good. I need to think, how can I put some combination of a pair of these numbers together to get negative 11? So all this means that some of them need to be negative, and I have a positive number up top. The only way I can get a positive number is if both of them are negative, because if we multiply two negative numbers, we get a positive. So I see that if I have negative 3 and negative 8, I add them together, I'm going to get a negative 11. But if I multiply them, I get positive 24. So I have negative 3 over here and negative 8. Nice thing about this is that the final answer stays the same. You just had to think a little harder to find the numbers on the side. Notice how I wrote them as minus 8. That's fine. If you wanted to write it as x plus negative 3 and x plus negative 8, perfectly fine. It's the same answer, same question. So either way is perfectly fine. They are correct. Now I'm going to ask you guys to take a shot at number 5 and number 6, and then I'll show you what the answers are in a second. Alrighty, so here goes. Example number 5. I'm going to go through all the steps, but I'm going to go quick. Hopefully you should have done them already. On top I put negative 8. On 7 I put negative 7 I put on the bottom. I need to find a number that multiplies to negative 8 and adds to negative 7. I know that if I multiply negative 8 times 1, I'm going to get negative 8. And if I add them together, I get negative 7. So then my final answer becomes x minus 8 and x plus 1. Notice how those negative signs stayed with that. And I also have the negative signs here as well. Super important. Now let's take a look at the last one. I'm going to give you the answers for that too. If you don't have it written down yet, make sure you're trying it yourself. Good practice to do this. So I put the negative 10 on top, negative 3 on the bottom. Then I find out that if I have negative 5 times 2, that gives me negative 10 when I multiply them. And then negative 5 plus 2 gives me negative 3. So my final answer becomes x plus 2 and x minus 5. And we will go over the word problem in class on Monday. So today, the only thing you need to worry about is, do you understand the diamond method? Now that you've done that, you can go to Blackboard and download the practice. The practice 1. Practice 1 is just the diamond method, and you guys will do well on it. Have a great weekend.